It's raining. Not hard, not like an autumn storm or a spring downpour, but gently, warmly, as though the heavens themselves are weeping. But happy tears. The raindrops fall slowly, languidly, as though they're in no hurry, as though they don't want to make their long journey too quickly. And through the open window of the compartment, some of the drops drift in. Not many, but enough that you can feel them. The warm raindrops of a May day. They touch your face gently, like little kisses, like a mother kissing her child before sleep. The warmth surprises you. You expected raindrops to be cold, but these are warm, almost body temperature, as though they come straight from the sun before falling. It's as though the rain carries the sun's heat within it, as though it brings the sun itself with it as it falls. You feel the rain on your hands too, on your arms, on the backs of your hands where the skin is thinner and more sensitive. Each drop is distinct, has its own weight, its own life, its own story. Some drops are large, full of water. Others are tiny, almost invisible. But all are warm. All carry the day's warmth with them. The rain doesn't soak your clothes. Not really. Doesn't penetrate them aggressively. It just moistens them, gently, tenderly, the way someone with wet hands might brush lightly over cloth, the way a mother might cool her fevered child's forehead with damp water. It's nurturing, loving, therapeutic. You feel individual drops falling into your ear, into your hair, sliding down the back of your neck. It's as though the rain is touching you everywhere, exploring you everywhere, getting to know you everywhere. The rain is intimate. The rain is familiar. The rain is like an old friend, someone you trust to touch you. The warm drops slip down your neck, and you notice you're smiling. This rain makes you happy. You close your eyes, and it's as though you can feel the rain even more intensely. Without the distraction of sight, your other senses can focus entirely on the rain. You can smell it, that damp scent of earth mingled with warm air. You can hear it, the soft sound of thousands of tiny drops striking the windows, pattering on roof tiles, brushing against tree leaves. It's a music that barely exists, that's hardly audible, but which is there nonetheless if you're present enough to listen. The rain of a May day is different, qualitatively distinct from rain in other seasons. In March, the rain is still cold, still connected to the last days of winter. In July, the rain can be violent, wild, ungoverned, a relief from the heat, but also aggressive, forceful. May rain is different. In spring, the rain is full of life, full of potential, full of promises to come. It brings life to plants, water to thirsty roots, nutrients to hungry leaves. May rain is a blessing, a gift of nature, not a punishment like sometimes summer or autumn rain, not a plague like the endless rain of a November day. The warmth of the rain is also a sign, clear and unmistakable, that summer is coming, that the world continues to change, continues to move forward. May is a transitional season, a threshold, a boundary line between spring and summer. May rain is not cold like March rain, when night can still freeze, when snow is still possible. And it's not hot like July rain, when the earth simmers and the air is so humid you can barely breathe. May rain is just right, exactly in the middle range, perfectly suited for the transition, perfectly right for a journey in a slow train through an awakening landscape. You think about the biology of rain, the physics and chemistry behind it, evaporation, the eternal water cycle. Water is everywhere in nature. It goes round and round in an endless dance. It's evaporated by the sun, that great source of energy, and rises up, becomes water vapor in the air. It becomes clouds in the air, white, fleeting formations that sail over you. Then it condenses, becomes water again, and falls as rain back to earth, back to you. You're part of this water cycle, an insignificant but important part. The water in your body has already been in many other bodies, in many other organisms, in many other ages, in many other worlds. The rain falling now on your face, on your hands, in your ear, could be water that dinosaurs once drank, water that flowed in ancient Mesopotamian rivers, water that fell on people's heads in the time of Jesus. Individual drops are small, almost insignificant, tiny as a speck of dust, but together they form a force, an inevitable, unstoppable force that can erode mountains, shape rivers, transform entire landscapes over millennia. And you're also small, insignificant on the world scale, but you're also part of this force. Your breath is part of the water cycle. Your sweat is part of the rain. Your tears are part of the rain. You and the rain, you're not separate. You're not divided. You're one. A single organism moving through time and space. The rain seems to slow time itself. As you hear the sound of rain, as you feel the drops on your skin, as you experience this warm May rain, everything else seems to fade. The train still moves. You can hear the rhythmic clatter of the wheels, but it's distant, somewhere at the edge of your awareness. The rain is close. The rain is your entire focus. There's a peace in the rain, a silence deeper than silence. It's as though the rain muffles all the world's noise, dampens all unrest. Your mind grows calmer, your thoughts grow slower. The worries and fears that usually plague you seem to melt in the rain, to evaporate, to dissipate like water in the sun. The rain is also a comfort. It tells you everything's all right, that nature cares for you, that you're welcome in this world. The rain falls on everything, on all people, on all organisms, without distinction. You're not alone. You're part of a great family, a great community, all moistened by this same rain, all nourished by this same water. Your body grows heavy. The warmth of the rain, the gentle fall of drops, the soft sound of rain on the windows, all of it together pulls you downward, draws you into the earth, like the roots of a tree reaching deep. Your eyes grow heavier. There's no reason to open them. There's no reason to see. You can see everything with your other senses. You can see the image of rain in your heart, in your mind. Memories of other rainy days come to you, jumbled, mingled, from different times in your life. Childhood, adulthood, the present, all blur together in the rain. Rain is timeless. Rain is everywhere. Rain is everywhere and nowhere. You're in the rain, and the rain is in you. There's no difference anymore. The rain grows quieter, softer. Perhaps the rain is letting up, or perhaps you're simply moving away from the heaviest of it. Perhaps the train is leaving the rain behind. But it doesn't matter. The rain is in you now. The warmth is in you. The memory is in you. The rain is your companion into sleep, your gentle guide into dreaming. With each breath you inhale the rain, breathe in the moisture. Breathe in the essence of nature. With each exhalation, you release the warmth, release your thoughts, release your worries. You become the rain. The rain becomes you. There's no boundary between you both. The boundaries between you and nature, between you and the world, between you and everything else. They dissolve like sugar in water, like colors in humid air. You and the May rain. You're not two, you're one. A single whole, a single reality. And as this memory fades, as the concrete reality of train and compartment dissolves into mist and moisture, as your consciousness moves into ever deeper and darker places where only dreams are possible, the warm rain carries you with it, carries you gently away, carries you into sleep, like a boat on a calm lake, bears you forth into dreams as warm and moist as May rain in the morning, falling on roses and grass. The train travels from Fluelen upward into the Schörlenen Gorge, and the world grows narrower, wilder, darker. Mountains loom up on both sides, and you can feel how the air grows thinner. You lean back and imagine the people who live in these mountains, in this cold, in this isolation. In Gerschenen, you step out and make your way up a steep path into the heights, past wild rock faces and between trees that look like skeletons beneath their white burden. The path is narrow and stony, and you need moments to adjust your senses to the altitude. An old guide finally leads you to a mountain with a large, dark entrance. An abandoned salt mine that was deserted decades ago when the salt industry moved on. A great, black mouth leading into the earth. But today this tunnel is used for something else, for something perhaps more important than salt. Inside, in this tunnel, lives and works a woman named Anna, who makes and ages cheese here in collaboration with the mountain itself. This is not simply cheese. This is cheese that has merged with the mountains, that contains the essence of the mountain. Anna is a cheesemaker in her late 40s, with hands rough from work and a smile that seems to illuminate all the darkness of the tunnel. She wears a woolen jacket and rubber boots, and when she sees you, she embraces you like an old friend. "Welcome to my realm," she says. "This is not like a normal dairy. This is something much deeper." She leads you deeper into the tunnel. The temperature drops. It's cold, about 8 to 10 degrees, constant all year round, unwavering, like the heart of an old mountain beating rhythmically. The air smells of stone, of age, of minerals millions of years old, of ripening cheese, of fermentation and transformation. The walls are mossy, damp, and water drips very quietly from the ceiling in an ancient rhythm. Drop, 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 like a metronome that's been beating for eternity. The mountain is my refrigerator, Anna explains, and her voice echoes in the darkness. But it's much more than that. The mountain is my partner. The mountain is the one who tells me when everything is right. I hear its voice in the silence, in the drops, in the temperature. You go deeper, and the eyes need time to adjust to the darkness. With each corner, the shelves become more visible. And now you see hundreds of cheese wheels. Giant golden wheels, as large as wagon wheels, lying on long wooden shelves. Some look new, their surface light and smooth. Others are darker, riper, with a thick, craggy crust that looks like maps time has drawn. Anna leads you to a particular row and points to it. These are my most precious cheeses. These here are 3 years old. They're so complex, so complete, that tasting them can be a spiritual experience. The flavor has stories, you see? Every cheese is a narrative of the season it was made, of the pastures the cows ate, of the water from the springs. She takes a cheese and cuts a thin slice. She hands it to you, and you taste. The cheese doesn't taste just of milk. It tastes of mountains, of time, of the mountain itself, of the minerals in the water, of the air deep beneath the earth. It's incredible. Flavor notes emerge on your tongue that you can't name, a river of experience encompassing generations. Anna watches your face and nods, satisfied. That's it, yes? That's not simply cheese. That's communication between me and the mountain. That's alchemy, real alchemy. Milk and salt and time in transformation. You go back to a hollowed-out area where Anna does her work. A room that looks like a kitchen built by hobbits, small and functional and full of love. There's a large copper pot where she cooks the milk. Old tools of wood and copper that look like art. Instruments polished by hand from decades of use. It smells here of cheese and brine and something sweet you can't identify. I begin with milk from the cows up there, from my farm, in the meadows that lie over 2,000 meters, she explains. The cows eat the feed that grows in this region, herbs, alpine flora, things that have no names. That gives the milk a special flavor, a taste of the place. And then I make the cheese here in the tunnel, with this constant temperature, with this special air that exists nowhere else in the world. Anna tells of her family, a long line of cheesemakers going back 3 generations. Her grandfather started working in this tunnel in the 1950s, when it was still a real salt mine. When it was no longer profitable, she says, he said, "Why not cheese? The conditions are perfect." And he was right. My father continued the work, and now I do. She shows you an old photo album with black and white photographs of her grandfather in this tunnel. The photos are faded, the corners wavy from moisture and time. Look, she says, how young he was. And look at how the tunnel was then. Less organized, less technical. Fewer notebooks, fewer measuring instruments. But the love was the same. The dedication was the same. In this one photograph, she points to a particularly clear image. You can see him placing his hand on a cheese, and you can see that it's not simply a cheese. It's a child, a creation, a work of his hands and his heart. You ask her why she does this work, when it's so hard, when it's so isolated. Anna thinks, and her eyes grow emotional. Because it matters, she says finally. Because there's something you create that wants to endure. The cheese I make today will delight someone in 5 years, and in 10 years, it will still be a legacy. That's not like any other work. That's immortality. A little bit. She prepares dinner for you. Thick slices of her cheese, dark bread, wine from the region. You sit in a cozy corner of the tunnel that she's furnished with blankets and lamps. In winter, Anna tells you, when the snow up in the mountain is 3 meters high, I'm down here. It's like 2 worlds, the world of death, of cold, of snow, up there, and here below, the world of becoming, of ripening, of life. She shows you a book where she documents the ripening of every cheese. Dates, notes, sometimes small drawings. These are my diaries, she says. This cheese here, number 447, that one was difficult. It was a hot summer in 2023, and the milk was different. But I managed to save the cheese, with patience, with understanding for what the mountain told me. When night comes, though it's always dark down here in the tunnel, Anna leads you to a small room where she sometimes sleeps. It's warm here with thick blankets, and it smells of cheese and alpine vegetation. Through a small opening, you can see stars if you look upward, the world outside the mountain, outdoors, under the night. Anna sits with you and speaks quietly, with a voice that begins to sound like the mountain itself. Calm, deep, unwavering. When I'm here beneath the mountain, she says, I don't feel alone. I feel like part of something greater. The mountain has a history, thousands of years. The stone, the rocks, the water that flows through these crevices, these are all old things, very old things. And I'm here for a short time, for a human lifetime. And I make cheese, and I connect my story with the mountain story. I'm just one cheesemaker, but through my cheese, I'm immortal. That's all I need. You notice your eyes are closing. The temperature is cool, but not cold. Not when you're under so many blankets. The scent of ripening cheese is everywhere. Soothing, like the breathing of the mountain itself. You imagine hundreds of wheels here, ripening, developing flavor, could change someone's future. Sleep beneath the mountain while the cheese wheels ripen in the darkness, and dream of stories wound into time. The heart in autumn has a kind of melancholy that draws people in like moths to a flame. The air smells of earth and decay. Not unpleasant, you understand, just real. I'd boarded at Nordhausen on a Wednesday morning, a narrow-gauge train of the sort that creaks and groans as though telling its history with every kilometer. A single meter of track, no more. Narrower than normal trains, cozier somehow, less frantic. The compartment already reeked of soot and autumn forest before I'd even sat down. But not in an unpleasant way. An honest smell. And then there was this man. He was sitting by the window, staring out as if reading the landscape the way other people read books. A large fellow, powerfully built, with hands that looked as though they could bend a tree. Yet those hands rested on his knees, still and open, like the hands of a statue, someone who'd learned to wait. His age was difficult to pin down, somewhere between 55 and 70, I'd have said. His clothes were practical, dark trousers, dark shirt, a heavy waistcoat, and everywhere, along his cuffs, in the creases of his palms, even in the lines of his forehead, soot. Not dirt, you see, patina, the color of work. I took a seat 3 or 4 places away. The man didn't look up. Outside, the trees began to drift past us, slowly at first, then faster as the little train hauled itself up the mountain. It was hard work for such a small engine. You could hear it straining, drawing in its breath and releasing it, over and over. That sound was soothing. It was authentic. Not like a high-speed train with its brutal efficiency, but something slower, more patient. Autumn came to us like a visitor. Leaves pressed against the window, yellow and red, and some already brown, almost black in their decay. After a while, perhaps 5 minutes, something shifted in the compartment. It wasn't that the man said or did anything. It was as though he simply began to be present, truly present, not just physically. I found myself beginning to relax. That tension I always carry, you know the sort, yes? That little knot in your neck that never quite goes away. It began to ease. The man turned his gaze from the window and looked down at his hands as if seeing them for the first time. His palms opened and I could see his fingernails were black, not from dirt, but from something that had sunk deeper. Charcoal, perhaps, with a memory of charcoal. I said, "You look like a man who works with fire." It was a foolish remark, rather trivial, but he smiled, a genuine smile, not a polite grimace. He said, "The kiln needs 5 days. 5 days of fire, round the clock. Night and day, someone always there." That was all he said. Not, "I make charcoal," or "I'm a charcoal maker," or "It's an old tradition." Just, "The kiln needs 5 days." He said it as though speaking of something utterly irreplaceable. His voice was quiet but firm, like roots going down into the earth. The train rattled on. The rails were old, and every imperfection was felt. That was good. That was real. I turned his words over in my mind. 5 days. 5 days of fire. 5 days without proper rest. 5 days absorbed utterly in a single task. It's not normal in modern life, you see. We fragment everything. We watch one video, then another, then read a message. We're in 100 places at once, and nowhere really. But this man, 5 days of fire, 5 days of concentration, 5 days of focus. Outside, we'd gone deeper into the forest now. The trees were older here, taller, yellowish in their age. It was autumn, but it was also farewell. The leaf that struck our carriage was no longer living. It was on its way back into the earth, on its way to becoming dust, to becoming tree again, perhaps. The man rose, suddenly but not restlessly. His movements were deliberate. He went to a window, opened it a crack, and autumn air flooded in. Smoke and leaves and something animal I couldn't quite name. 8 different kinds of wood, he said, to himself rather than to me. 8 different kinds the kiln needs at different times. First you light the fire, then quickly with pine. It burns bright and hot. Then beech to stabilize. then oak for depth, then elm, then maple, then... He trailed off. His eyes were closed. He was feeling the air, sensing the autumn breeze, but surely also something else. The heat of the kiln, perhaps. The memory of heat still lodged in his muscles. I didn't understand everything he said. I didn't follow the precise order, not all the names. But I understood the pattern. There was a logic to it, an inner logic that wasn't rational. This wasn't merely work, it was a dialogue. A charcoal maker speaking with the fire, and the fire answering through charcoal. The wood answering through transformation. There was something ritualistic in it, something sacred, you might say, without being absurd about it. The train approached Wernigerode, slowly and deliberately. The man closed his window again, sat back down. He didn't look at me, but he said, "Most people, they want a product. They want me to make charcoal, full stop. But the kiln, it's a person. It has a rhythm. It has a temperament. If you don't listen, if you're not truly there..." He made a gesture, as though something invisible might shatter. The train was slowing now. We were at our destination. Wernigerode lay below us. Red stone roofs, church spires, autumn trees all around. The man stood, took a simple rucksack from the rack. Before he left, he said one more thing. "It takes time, not haste. Time is patience. Patience is..." He searched for the word. "Patience is love," he said finally. And then he was gone, out onto the platform, a large man with heavy hands, into the autumn wind. I remained in my seat. I understood now, not immediately, but as the train began to move again, I understood. 5 days of fire. 5 days of presence. 5 days in which one cannot rush because the kiln dictates the pace, not the maker. 5 days in which you learn to wait, in which you listen, in which you discover that every task, if you truly see it, if you're truly present, becomes something more than a task. It becomes a kind of prayer. It becomes a kind of dance. It becomes the fire speaking, and the charcoal maker listening, and the charcoal knowing that it is loved. I knew that now. I knew it as the autumn outside shifted its colors, as the train descended slowly, deliberately, patiently, as the hands of a charcoal maker who waits 5 days because the fire demands it. Imagine it's spring in this compartment, and you're drifting slowly through a landscape that's just waking up. The window's open, only a little, mind you, just enough for the air to slip through, fresh and full of promise. The train moves slowly, perhaps through a region scattered with small gardens and old houses. The scent doesn't announce itself. It arrives like an old friend you haven't seen in years, creeping up on you. At first, just a whisper, barely there, mingled with the steam from the rails and the smell of damp grass. Then it grows stronger. This lilac scent, this sweetness with a subtle spice to it, drifting in from outside and filling the entire compartment. You breathe it in deeply, and it's as though time itself slows down, as though each breath brings you closer to summer. Your nose registers the delicate top notes first, then the fuller, rounder essence of the flower. It's a fragrance with layers, unfolding like a story being told. The lilac blooms all around you, though you can't actually see it. Not really. You know it's out there, past the villages slipping by, in the gardens of houses that fade swiftly away. Violet and white, all those tiny flowers clustered together like little stars scattered across the sky. Each single bloom carries its own whisper of scent, and together they create a symphony, an olfactory one, wrapping round you completely. You imagine what those flowers must look like, their delicacy, their color. The bees hum about them, the first butterflies are on the move. All of that's contained in this scent. All of it lives in this one sweet moment. It's remarkable the way a scent can pull you backwards into your past. There was a garden in your childhood, wasn't there? A garden with wild lilac bushes, sprawling and overgrown, and you'd wander between them, picking flowers and tying them into little bundles. The scent then was just as sweet, just as enticing. Now, in the train, as the landscape glides past, this scent carries you directly back to that garden. You can feel the warmth of the sun on your skin as you stand between the bushes. You hear the calls of other children, far off, at the garden's far end. Their voices are faded now, but they're still there, mixed with the soundtrack of your own childhood. The lilac was your secret then, your private place of stillness and beauty. The compartment is cool, but this scent brings you the warmth of spring. The seat's upholstery is old and worn, but as you breathe in this fragrance, it becomes soft and familiar. The light coming through the open window is more golden now, softer. It spills across the compartment walls and down into your lap. The window frames cast shadows, and you watch them move slowly as the train carries on. Everything is languid and unhurried, as though the world itself wants to drift off to sleep. Beyond the window, endless green fields with scattered trees here and there, and everywhere this scent. It's as though the whole world consists of nothing but this smell, this one sweet note carrying you along, rocking you gently. You breathe in again, deeper this time, and it's almost as though the scent penetrates your very bones, becomes part of who you are. Your lungs fill with this essence, and for a brief moment, nothing exists but this fragrance and your breathing. Lilac has this quality, you see, this ability to fill a space so completely that everything else seems to fade. The train's sounds, that rhythmic clatter of wheels on rails, it's still there, but it's distant now, at the edge of your awareness. The scent is close, it's here, it's your entire focus. It's as though you're not just breathing with your nose, but with your whole being. Your skin absorbs the scent, your hair carries it within it. You become part of this lilac, this spring. You think about the chemistry behind it, the volatile oils released by the flowers. It's nature, pure nature, coming through the air to you, slipping into your compartment. No artificial fragrance could be this real, this alive, this full of life. The scent of lilac is ancient, utterly ancient. A fragrance humans have known for thousands of years. Kings and beggars, mothers and children, they've all smelled this. And now, in this moment, you smell it too. You're part of this long chain of human experience. It's a scent that binds, that brings generations together, that dissolves the boundary between yesterday and today. You wonder how long this scent will stay with you. Will it travel with you to the next station? Will it sink into your clothes and accompany you all day long? These thoughts are soothing, almost comforting. The scent will linger, at least for a while, at least in your memory. It will carve itself into your mind, there where all the great moments live. There's a moment when the scent reaches its peak. The train has slowed, perhaps moving through a village, and the lilac bushes are closer now, nearer to the tracks. The scent is so intense it's almost overwhelming, almost too sweet, but not quite. It's perfect, this moment. Perfect in its intensity and presence. You close your eyes, and it's as though you're swimming in this scent, as though the entire world is nothing but this one sweet, spicy fragrance. There's no before and after. There's only this instant, this breath, this perception. In this moment of intensity, you can distinguish the individual components of the scent. There's the sweet note of the sugars in the flower, mixed with the slightly more bitter, greener note of the stems. There's something almost herbal, something that smells of damp earth, of rain and growth. It's the scent of life itself, of becoming, of blossoming. Your body responds to it. Your muscles relax. Your breathing grows steadier. Then the train picks up speed again. The village falls away. The lilac bushes recede into the distance, but the scent remains, hovering in the compartment, merging with the air, becoming part of the space where you sit. It's not as intense now, but it's still there, subtle like a memory that won't quite be forgotten. The memory of that intense moment lingers and calms you. You know you'll experience this scent again, that there are more lilacs, more villages, more moments of such beauty. Your thoughts grow slower. The scent seems to soothe you. Your breathing deepens and steadies. Each breath is an act of savoring this sweet smell. There's no rush, no troubling thoughts. There's only this moment, this scent, this train moving through the spring landscape. The windows are slightly misted from the difference between inside and out, but the scent comes through anyway, seeping in, like time growing thick and slow. You lean back against the seat's upholstery, and your body grows heavier, more relaxed. The scent wraps around you like a blanket, warm and soothing. Time seems to pause. Minutes might pass, or hours, but you don't mind. You're here, in this compartment, in this moment, and that's enough. That's all you'll ever need. The window remains slightly open, and the occasional breeze brings a fresh gust of air, renewing the scent, making it fresher again. Then it fades for just a moment, only to return, stronger. It's like breathing, rhythmic, wave-like, this scent coming and going, like the tides of some inner sea. With each breath you grow drowsier, calmer, drawn deeper into a peaceful state. Spring is all around you, in the air, in this scent of lilac. And as you sit here, breathing it in, as the landscape slowly flows past, your consciousness grows lighter. The boundaries between you and the scent, between you and the train, between you and the world outside, they grow ever more blurred. You and the lilac, you're one. The scent is your breath, and your breath is the scent. The scent is the last thing you truly perceive before your thoughts dissolve into gentle sleep. Sweet, spicy, alive, real. It's the last thing holding you awake. And then, so softly, so gradually, you let that go too, and your eyes drift closed. It's a gentle whisper, almost too soft to hear, yet there it is. The wind outside carries it through the open train window, filling the compartment with a voice that's barely a voice at all. It's the new spring leaves on the trees, just burst from their buds, still young and tender and full of life. The whisper is irregular, not steady like a metronome. It comes in waves, now stronger, now fainter, depending on how the wind moves across the land. A gust arrives and the leaves rustle louder, a living sound, almost like applause. And then the wind calms again, and it becomes a barely audible whisper. So delicate, you begin to wonder if you've heard it at all. It's as though the trees are speaking to you, telling you something important, but you can't quite make out the words. You can only listen, open yourself to this ancient language of nature, a language older than any words we know. The young leaves aren't yet as stiff as summer leaves. They're flexible, light, almost thin as paper, not yet hardened by sun and time. When the wind passes over them, they vibrate, and that vibration creates the whisper. This tender sound like a lullaby, a song the natural world sings for you alone. There are thousands of tiny sounds that together form this single whisper, and it's impossible to distinguish one from another. Each leaf contributes its own part, and together they form a chorus of millions of voices singing in perfect harmony. You imagine how the individual leaves must dance in the wind, bobbing up and down, turning and swaying. Some turn against the wind, others with it. It's a choreographed movement, a perfect order that looks like chaos. The wind leads, and the leaves follow, a dance that's been going on for millions of years, since the very first leaves trembled in a wind that didn't yet exist. You imagine how the leaves must look, their bright colors, their delicate structure. They've just emerged from their buds, not yet fully spread. Some are still tightly curled, others have already unfurled to their full size. They're in shades of green, bright green, lime green, green with hints of yellow. The sun shines through them, and they glow as though they have their own light. The train glides through a landscape thick with trees. On both sides of the tracks are forests, or at least rows of trees lining the way. All these trees are whispering at once, and their whisper becomes a chorus, a concert of thousands of small voices. It's music that isn't music, a rhythm that has no rhythm, yet possesses a deep order, a deep harmony. You try to focus on individual whispers, but it's impossible. The moment you concentrate on one voice, you lose the others. It all blurs together into a single whisper. And perhaps that's the point. Perhaps you're not meant to understand it, but simply to listen, simply to be present for this voice of nature. The whisper has a calming effect. It's not pushy, doesn't try to force your attention. It just whispers quietly to itself, waiting patiently for you to open up and listen. It reminds you of things you've forgotten, things you've buried in all life's hustle. It reminds you that there are other things in this world beyond the worries and fears that follow you each day. Your eyes close slowly, without you meaning it. It's as though the whisper of the leaves makes your eyes heavier, draws you into a state of relaxation. With your eyes closed, the whisper grows louder, clearer. It's as though your other senses are compensating for the lack of visual stimuli. The whisper becomes the landscape, becomes the whole world. You think about the philosophy behind it, the ancient idea that trees can speak, that they communicate. It's not just a poetic metaphor. There really is communication between trees, through underground networks of fungi and roots, through chemical signals floating in the air. But on another level, a deeper, more spiritual level, trees speak to one another. And sometimes, in moments like this, when you grow quiet enough, when you open yourself to the voice of nature, you can listen. You can become part of this conversation. The whisper is a dialogue between tree and wind, between tree and you. The whisper is also a sign of life, of growth, of endless becoming. These aren't the old, hard leaves of summer, not the withered leaves of autumn. These are spring leaves, full of life, full of possibility, full of potential. They whisper of new beginnings, of the world waking up, of the cycle of life that repeats year after year since the world began. You're part of this cycle. You're woven into this great rhythm of nature, this ancient and eternal music. Your life is only a moment in this great dance of the seasons. But in this moment, you are all that matters. The leaves have veins, fine lines carrying water and nutrients. When the sun shines through them, you can see those veins, like a delicate network of life. It's the same network that runs through the human body, the same pattern that repeats everywhere in nature. Fractals, self-similarity, the same patterns repeating at different scales. You and the trees, you're not as different as you might think. The wind comes and goes, and with it comes and goes the whisper. It's like the world's great breathing, inhaling and exhaling. Sometimes it's so quiet you can barely hear it, just the train's rattle and the drum of wheels on the rails, rhythmic, steady, almost hypnotic. Then the wind stirs again, and the whisper grows louder, more intense, becoming a kind of rustling at the edge of your awareness. It's nature's breathing, this exchange between silence and whisper, between noise and calm, like the pulse of a living thing. You wonder how long this whisper will stay with you. Soon the train will leave the forest, move into more open country, where there are fewer trees, where fields stretch to the horizon. Then the whisper will grow faint, will slowly fade like a voice moving away. But now, in this moment, it's still here, still close, still real and immediate. You cherish every instant, every breath of the whisper, as though this moment might never end, as though time might stop here and leave you in peace. The whisper is a comfort too. It tells you that you're not alone, that there's life all around you, whispering leaves and growing trees and wide open landscapes on every side. It's a reassurance, a guarantee that life goes on, that nature pursues its course, regardless of what you think or do. There's a plan, a great pattern, and you're part of it, whether you notice it or not. Your thoughts grow ever more diffuse, ever softer. The whisper of the leaves seems to scatter them, distribute them like pollen on the wind. Thoughts come and go, but none of them stay. They land for a moment in your awareness and then drift onward, carried by the whisper of the leaves. The boundaries between you and the world outside grow ever more blurred. There's only this moment now, this compartment, this whisper. Your body grows heavier, becomes part of the seat, becomes part of the train, becomes part of the landscape. It's as though you're dissolving into this tender music of nature, as though your awareness is spreading across all these whispering leaves. The whisper becomes your lullaby. It carries you into a place where dreaming and waking make no difference. The leaves still whisper, but you hear them from far away now, from somewhere deep, from a place that's safe and warm and full of rest. And as you sink deeper into that place, as the whisper drifts further and further away, it becomes the music of your own dreams, the voice of your own subconscious, gently telling you it's time to rest. The light comes through the compartment windows, but it's not simply light. It's light that's been filtered through the leaves, light that's passed through hundreds, thousands of new spring leaves before reaching you. And that's why this light has quite a special quality, a particular color and texture all of its own. It's green. The light itself is green, a delicate, almost transparent green, the green of the new leaves themselves. When you open your eyes and look towards the windows, everything is filled with this green light. It's warm and soft, like silk against your skin. It's as though the whole world outside the window consists of nothing but this tender green, this essence of spring. The light dances across the surfaces of the compartment. It glides over the walls, over the seats, over your hands. Everywhere it touches, it seems to transform things. The old, worn upholstery becomes new, becomes alive. The cracked window frames suddenly look as though they belong to another era, romantic, nostalgic, full of history. The shadows grow deeper, more intense, and the lit surfaces glow brighter than before. You follow the light with your eyes as it moves. The train goes slowly, but it does go, and with every movement, the angle at which the light falls into the compartment shifts. Sometimes it's intense and concentrated, sometimes diffuse and scattered. There are moments when the light shines directly into your eyes, and you must squint to protect yourself. Then it moves on, and your eyes can relax again. The leaves the light passes through are so thin, You can see the veins, those fine lines carrying nutrients and water through the leaf. The light shines through these delicate lines and creates tiny, intricate patterns on the compartment floor, on the walls, on your clothes, on your hand resting quietly in your lap. Patterns that look almost jungle-like, primitive artworks, overlapping leaf shapes that shift and change depending on how the wind moves the leaves, how the train passes through. It's like an endlessly changing, living artwork, an artwork of light itself, existing only for this one moment and then vanishing forever. You notice these patterns are fleeting, ephemeral, like everything in life. Each movement of the train, each movement of the leaves in the wind, each revolution of the wheels on the rails completely transforms the patterns. There's no going back, no repeating. That's the nature of these moments. They're unique. They won't happen again. They live once and then die. And that's what makes them so precious, so valuable, so meaningful. You try to capture them with your eyes, store them in your memory like pressed flowers in a book. But you know it's a hopeless task. You can't save all the patterns, not in all their complexity and beauty. You can only be present, only observe, only live in this moment as it passes like water through your fingers. The patterns change faster and faster as the train picks up speed. But for now, the train is moving slowly, and the patterns have time to unfold, time to impress themselves upon you. You can make out individual leaf shapes, can watch them transform into other shapes, can see how shadows and light dance together. There's music in these patterns, a silent music that stirs your inner senses. The green of the light seems to change even the temperature of the compartment, to influence it. It grows warmer, more pleasant, more languid. The cold train, which was cold and uncomfortable, becomes, through this green light, this green warmth, a warm, cozy place, a nest. It's as though the sun itself is telling you everything's all right, that you're safe, that you can be safe here, that you can let yourself fall. You think about the chemistry behind it, the chlorophyll, the molecules creating the green color, photosynthesis. These molecules capture the sun's energy, consume it, transform it into chemical energy, into sugar, into life, into growth. And the color they reflect, that green, it's precisely the light they don't need, which they throw back, which they reject. So what you're seeing isn't the light the leaves need to live. You're seeing the light they had left over, the light they didn't want, the excess. It's a poetic thought, almost a metaphor for all life, that you exist to see nature's leftovers, to see what others didn't need, to find beauty in the rejected. The light through the leaves is also a sign of transparency, of delicacy, of vulnerability. The leaves are young, thin, not yet hardened by sun and time and weather. They let the light through, without resistance, without concealment. They hide nothing. They have nothing to hide. They're open, vulnerable, completely ready for the world awaiting them. There's a tenderness in that image, an innocent gentleness that touches you, that softens you, that melts you like wax in the sun. The young leaves are also greener than older leaves. They contain more chlorophyll, more intense color, more intense life. The light they reflect back is more intense, more saturated, more alive. Later in summer, the leaves will grow old, darker, harder. The light will be weaker then. But now, in this moment, in spring, the light is at its most intense, most alive, most green. You close your eyes, and the green light still seems to pass through your eyelids. It's not dark when you close your eyes. It's still green, still warm, still present, still everywhere. The red of the blood flowing through your eyes mingles with the green of the light, creating strange, beautiful patterns behind your closed eyelids. It's as though the light doesn't come from outside, but from within, from you yourself, as though it's shining from your heart, from your whole being. It's as though your own inner light is the same green as the outer light, as though you and the leaves are made from the same stuff. The boundaries between inside and outside grow blurred, permeable. The light coming through the leaves mingles with your inner light, with your inner consciousness, with your inner thoughts. There's no difference anymore between you and the world outside. You're part of the green light, and the green light is part of you. The leaves shine, and you shine with them. The sun shines, and you shine too. There's no difference anymore between subject and object, between observer and observed. Your thoughts become colored by this light, filtered by it, changed by it. They grow green, tender, transparent like the leaves themselves. Every thought that arises is immediately illuminated by the green light, and you can see its structure, its inner veins, its essence. There are no dark corners in your mind anymore. No hidden shadows, no secrets. Everything is bright. Everything is green. Everything is transparent and open and vulnerable. Your consciousness becomes light, becomes color, becomes transparency. You become transparent like the young leaves, and the world's light shines through you. The light dims a little, grows softer, more diffuse, as though evening were coming. But it's not evening. It's simply that the train is leaving the dense trees, that the dense leaves are growing more scattered, that the light is spreading out, growing more diffuse. Yet it remains green in your eyes, still warm, still present in your consciousness. The memory of that intense green light remains. The color is imprinted in your memory. The warmth lingers on your skin, in your bones. You grow tired from the light, tired from the endless shifting of fleeting patterns, tired from constantly observing, from trying to capture and store it all. Your mind grows weary. Your eyes are heavy. They close very slowly, and the green light becomes a green darkness, a green dream into which you're drawn, into which you fall like a leaf on a still lake. The leaves, those new spring leaves, whisper to you that it's time to sleep, that you've watched long enough, that you've been present long enough in this tender, green, transparent world. It's time to let go, time to surrender to the dream, time to fall into the green light and let it carry you into a deeper, darker, greener sleep. It's evening, and the train moves slowly through a landscape that's preparing itself for sleep. The sun is no longer high in the sky. It's approaching the horizon, and the light grows softer, warmer, more golden. And in this time, in this hour between day and night, the birds begin to sing. The thrushes, with their melodious, flute-like voices, fill the air with their music, their song, their life. The compartment window is open, and this bird song drifts in, fills the space, reaches your ear, touches your heart, fills your entire awareness. It's not a single bird singing, it's many, a whole choir, a complete concert, an entire symphony of hundreds, thousands, countless voices. But sometimes, when you become truly present, when you grow completely still, you can distinguish individual voices. A single bird, a single thrush, singing its very own song while the others listen, use its melody as a backdrop, and then all the voices blend again. All the sounds merge into one great wash of music and life. It's a music that isn't music, because it comes from nature itself, from the throats of wild birds wanting nothing but to express their joy, their sadness, their love, their simple existence. The song is melodious, flowing, beautiful, yet also melancholic, also sad. It's as though the birds know the day is ending, that night is coming, that silence and darkness will follow. But there's hope in the song too, a deep hope, the hope of a new day tomorrow, of further chances to sing, of life continuing. The bird song is full of these dual feelings, full of this tension between joy and sorrow, between hope and despair, between life and death, between day and night. You close your eyes and follow the song. It's as though you're falling into the song, becoming a bird yourself, becoming a singer. Your thoughts become the song. Your breath becomes the rhythm of the melody. You're no longer a human in a train. You're part of nature, part of the bird choir, part of this great symphony of evening. The thrushes have a very specific way of singing. They flute their notes, roll them, break them into multiple parts. There's a complexity in their music, a depth, a beauty that's difficult to describe. Each singer has his own style, his own variation, but all are connected through this shared impulse to sing, to communicate, to exist. You imagine the birds sitting on thin tree branches, their heads thrown back, their beaks wide open, their whole bodies, their entire existence devoted to this song, this most important act of living. They're small, delicate, vulnerable. Their bones are hollow, their feathers light. Yet in this moment, they're also powerful, majestic, overwhelming, like kings or queens, like rulers of the earth. Their song fills the entire world, the entire landscape, the whole sky. At least in this moment, at least for you, at least for your consciousness. It's as though the whole world consists of nothing but this song, as though there's nothing else but this music. Birdsong is also a sign of the season, a marker of transition, an announcement of change. In spring, the birds sing particularly loudly, particularly tirelessly, with a kind of desperation, as though they're pouring everything into this song, as though they're risking everything. They sing to defend their territories, to find mates, to court, to lure, to proclaim they're alive, that they exist, that they matter. The song is an expression of vitality, of raw power, of unbridled joy in living. And yet, there's also a sadness in this song, a deep, undeniable sadness. The sadness of time passing, the sadness of transience, the sadness of time taking everything away. You think about the evolution of birds, about their long, almost unimaginable history. Once they were dinosaurs, huge, powerful, feared by all. Then they lost that power, became smaller, more agile, more capable of flight, more adaptable. They developed this wonderful, mysterious ability to sing, the ability to produce sounds that aren't merely functional, that don't merely serve to communicate, but that are also beautiful, also musical, also full of feeling. It's a wonder of nature, this bird song, a true wonder, repeated every evening, every spring, for millions of years, since the earth was young and full of such wonders. You notice the train still moves, but the bird song is louder than the rattle and clack of wheels on rails. It's as though the song overlays the train's noise, covers it, pushes it into the background, makes it seem unimportant. The train is part of this world, an intruder, yet also permitted, also welcome, also respected. The birds don't sing against the train, don't sing despite it. They sing with it. They integrate its rhythm into their song. They make it part of their music. There's a communication between the birds and you, though you don't speak bird language, though you don't know how to speak thrush. Yet you understand the feeling, the meaning behind the song, the essence of the message. You know what the birds are saying, even if you don't know the words, even if the words are in another language, an older language, a primal language, older than words themselves. They're saying the world is beautiful, that life is precious, that it's worth singing about, even when you know the day is ending, that evening is coming, that night approaches, that death grows closer always. Your thoughts grow ever more diffuse, ever weaker, begin to dissolve. The bird song seems to rock you gently, the way a loving mother rocks her small child in a cradle and sings to lull it to sleep. Each melody is a soothing, a comfort, an assurance that everything's all right, that you're safe. Your body grows heavy, heavier and heavier. Your eyes grow heavier, can barely stay open. The song grows both louder and quieter simultaneously, more intense and yet more distant, farther away. It's paradoxical, yet it's real. It's as though you're diving into the song, losing yourself in it, dissolving into it like a raindrop into rain. The thrushes still sing, tirelessly, full of strength, full of life, but the sky grows darker, more melancholic. Day is ending. The sun slowly approaches the horizon, touches it, turns red, deep red, orange, pink, finally violet. The colors of landscape, earth and sky change, grow warmer in tone, yet cooler in the air. The birds know night is coming, that their song will soon end, that darkness will win. But not yet. They still have time, still have their throats, still have their voices, still have their music, still have their lives. They sing as though there were no tomorrow, as though this were the last evening, as though this were the last song ever to be sung, since the world's beginning. The bird song becomes your personal lullaby, your very own cradle song. It's the last thing you truly hear while awake, the last thing you fully grasp before your eyes finally close, before they shut and refuse to open again. It's the song carrying you into sleep, guiding you into dreams, accompanying you on this journey from wakefulness to sleep. The thrushes are your guardians, your guides, your companions in this essential crossing from consciousness to unconsciousness, from reality to dream, from day to night. And as you let yourself fall, as you sink into the depths of sleep, into that wonderful darkness of rest, you still hear the song, that sweet, melancholic, sorrowful song of the thrushes, the spring evening song, the eternal song of transience and beauty together, of life and death. It's the song of your own soul, the song of your own heart, and you recognize it. You recognize yourself within it, in this song, in this music, in this great symphony of nature. Picture yourself on a train, winding slowly through the Allgäu countryside, through green hills. Outside, the first tender shoots are appearing on the trees, soft still, and the light grows gentler, more golden as we draw closer to Kempten. In this carriage sits a woman with quiet eyes, her hands darkened by work, telling the story of water, of fibers and patience, the story of decades. The train isn't full on this spring afternoon. Most of the window seats are empty, but this one is taken. A window seat where someone sits watching the landscape slip slowly past. The woman here wears a dark jacket, and her hair is grey, long, bound into a thick plait. She wears no jewelry, no rings, except for a simple wedding band, darkened by her work. Her name is Margaret, and she is a papermaker. Not the sort who works in big factories, no. Margaret makes laid paper by hand, the way it's been done for centuries. She sits now at the window, gazing out at the gentle hills as they emerge into spring light. They're her hills, familiar to her. But after weeks away in other cities, everything feels particularly fresh and alive today. The fiber is everything, she told me once. Everything. It comes from everywhere. From cotton she gathers, from linen she tears in the workshop, from scraps she receives from tailors. Each fiber carries its own story. The cotton perhaps came from a shirt someone wore before it grew too old. The linen might have come from bed sheets that kept a family warm for generations. When you put those fibers into water, when you move them through the sieve, they tell a new story together, a story that goes on, that never ends. That's what's beautiful about it. That's why Margaret does this. Margaret is traveling today from Kempten to Memmingen, and she's brought samples in her rucksack. Paper dusted with gold leaf that she's made for a calligrapher in Munich. delicate paper with scattered fibers that look like tiny flowers, like little snowflakes of frozen light. And raw paper, not yet fully dried, that she'll work on herself. She carries these samples like treasures, these thin sheets that have cost so much time, so much care. In her workshop, tucked away in an old mill house, Margaret opens the tall windows wide each morning. Fresh air streams in, warm now, not cold like it was in winter. Birds sing outside, and sometimes a butterfly finds its way in, confused by the new season. The sun strikes the long tables where the sieves stand in a row like musical instruments, ready to be played. The water in the great wooden vats gleams golden in the spring light. It's filtered. It holds the exact mixture of fibers she's cut and prepared throughout the day, waiting patiently for the rhythmic movement of her hands. The scooping is rhythmic, meditative, almost like breathing, almost like prayer. Each time she lowers the frame into the water, each time she lifts it and shakes it gently, with a movement so natural it's like walking, so automatic as breathing, something magical happens, something wondrous. The fine fibers catch in the sieve and form a thin layer, white, dense, full of possibility, full of future. Water drips away, trickling like a quiet melody onto the sieves below. And where there was only water a moment before, suddenly there's paper. Raw, wet, shapeable paper, waiting to reveal its true nature, waiting to dry and then to glow. She works in quiet concentration, hour after hour, sometimes the whole day through, never growing tired, never growing impatient. Her hands have known these movements for 40 years, since she was a young woman, 21, who never quite believed she'd do this work for her whole life, that it would feel so fulfilling. They've grown gnarled, brown from the sun and water, the nails hardened by lime water, hard as horn, like little stones. But they're awake too, these hands, sensitive, almost intelligent, able to feel the smallest differences in how the fibers lie, knowing when something isn't quite right. If the paper isn't even, if there are thickened spots or thin places where light shines through, her hand feels it at once, warns her before her eye even knows something's amiss. The drying takes time. That's the hardest thing for modern people, Marguerite told me once when we sat in her workshop drinking tea. Everything has to happen quickly these days. Everything has to be perfect at once. But good paper needs days, patience, trust. She hangs the wet sheets on long lines stretched across the workshop like laundry, like flags of an invisible nation. Light from the tall windows shines through the damp sheets and makes them almost luminous, alive, like little windows into another realm. With each day, they grow firmer, denser, more beautiful. The paper breathes itself dry, returns its water to the air, becomes what it ought to be. Sometimes she works with students. Calligraphers come to her from different cities, from Munich, from Stuttgart, even from Cologne. Stay for weeks, learning how to scoop, how to prepare the paper, how to make it into something marvelous. She shows them everything, without impatience, without keeping secrets, without holding anything back. They see for the first time what labor lies behind every fine sheet they'll later inscribe with gold and black ink, that they'll transform into masterpieces. Some students nearly weep when they grasp how precious it is, what they hold in their hands, how much love lives within it, how much time, how much care. The tools in her workshop are old, older than Margaret herself, older than her mother, older, perhaps, than her grandmother. The sieve has a wooden frame, darkened by decades of contact with water, polished smooth by countless movements of her hands and the hands before hers. The roller with which she presses the wet fibers has 100 years at least, weighs more than 2 people can lift. A small press that her grandfather used before he went to war in 1939 and never came back. But the press still works, runs like it did on its first day. Everything still works, maintainable, respected, cared for like a living thing. The train slows now. We're approaching Memmingen, the last hour of the journey beginning. Margaret tucks her samples away and gazes out at the meadows, growing greener with each kilometer, at the trees opening their buds as if the world were waking for the very first time. Her thoughts already turn to the workshop, to the water, to the fibers waiting tomorrow, to the work that has no ending, and that's a good thing. And she thinks of the calligraphers and book restorers somewhere in this country, in this world, holding her paper in their hands, writing or drawing upon it what truly matters. Poems, love letters, values, history. That's the secret, she whispers to herself, like a confession, like a prayer. Patience with the fibers, yes, but also love, real love, respect for the water, the life that flows in it, the strength that dwells there, and the certainty, the deep inner certainty she's carried for 40 years, that anything made slowly and properly, made with both mind and heart, carries a piece of eternity within it, a fragment of immortality. The paper will outlive her, long after she's gone, long after the paper is written upon, it will still be there. The train picks up speed again after slowing through a bend. Margaret feels the power that the paper in her rucksack holds. These thin sheets, these delicate works of art, will soon be in artists' hands, will be transformed, will become part of something greater. And if you ever hold a handmade sheet of laid paper, if you feel the slight unevenness, the fine structure, if you see how light passes through it differently, then think of Margaret and her bright workshop windows. Think of the fibers that tell her whole life, that tell the years, and write or draw something truly important upon it, something that deserves to be held on such precious material. And the landscape outside grew softer. The outlines of the trees dissolved. The fields became dark shapes across which the moon sometimes slid its pale light. I felt my breath growing slower, my heart slowing, my whole body sinking down into the warm embrace of the seat cushions, into the warm embrace of this train that carried me, asking nothing of me. That was a good feeling, a rare feeling, to be carried without effort, simply to trust that the wheels keep turning, that the rails go on, that morning will come eventually. The train moves through forests that are just beginning to stir, just waking. Tender, fresh green on the oaks and beeches, on the alders. Life everywhere. And in this carriage sits a large man with large hands. Hands that smell of oak bark and decades of honest, steady work. Of patience. His name is Friedrich, and he's a tanner of the old sort, one of the last. Friedrich works with plant tannins, the way his grandfather did, and his grandfather before him. At a time when most tanneries have long since closed, when leather everywhere is dyed quickly with chemicals, Friedrich sits in his workshop in Amberg and does it the way it's been done for centuries. With tannins from oak bark, with water, with time, with patience. The train is just leaving Amberg now, the city growing small behind it. Friedrich watches it recede for a long while, watches the tannery, which his father left him, which his grandfather built, which his great-grandfather chose. An old tannery. The roof needs repairs, tiles missing in places, the walls grey with age, with water, with steam. But inside that old building, something marvelous happens. Something you don't see, but smell, feel. There, raw leather, harsh, dead skin, becomes fine, durable material that will last for years, for decades even, that grows more beautiful with time, grows richer, grows darker. The work begins with the bark. Friedrich gathers the bark himself, not everywhere, but from oaks in the Upper Palatinate forests that he knows like his own hands. He knows which trees have ripe bark with the right tannins in it, which ones he can trim without injuring them. He goes there each year at the same time, when the sap is running and the bark peels away easily, as if the tree wants to give. He strips the bark himself, carefully, with respect, so the tree doesn't suffer too much, so it lives on, so it will give again next year. Then he brings it to the workshop, bundled like papyrus, and there the long journey begins, the long transformation. The bark is ground. Friedrich still owns an old mill which his great-grandfather bought. It runs on water, on the power of the stream that flows past the workshop. The water is cold now in spring, full of energy. The mill grinds the bark into a fine powder that smells of spring and forest floor. Then comes the leather. Raw leather, which Friedrich gets from merchants, hides from cattle slaughtered for meat. Nothing is wasted. It's a principle Friedrich believes in. The leather is still hard, still raw. It must be softened, must be prepared with a bath in water and lime to loosen the last hairs and open up the fibers. Then comes the tanning proper, a process that takes up to 2 months, sometimes longer if Friedrich's making particularly fine leather. The leather is laid into great barrels, heavy oak barrels as old as the workshop itself, filled with oak bark tea. Water, tannins, time. Those are the 3 essential things. The leather lies in there and soaks slowly, layer by layer, fiber by fiber, deeper into the tanning solution. The color begins to shift, from grayish brown to reddish to dark brown. Every single day, without fail, Friedrich turns the leather over, lifts it with his great hands, lets the brown liquid drip away, making sure it's treated evenly, that no spot is forgotten. The workshop smells of this process, of the whole process together. It's a smell that's not to everyone's taste. Many visitors find it unpleasant, too intense. But Friedrich loves it, has loved it for 66 years. It's the smell of transformation, of patience, of nature, of life changing. When the windows are opened wide in the morning and fresh air comes in, spring air, then the smell of bark mixes with the scent of the green trees outside, with the water of the stream. It's like two worlds meeting, reconciling. Sometimes birds come in and sing, confused by the strange place, by the vapors, by the heat, singing their songs anyway. Friedrich is 66 now, but his eyes are still sharp, his voice still strong. His hands are large and powerful, but tender too in their movements, with a sensitivity you only acquire through decades. He knows how to treat leather, knows it in his bones. He knows when it needs to be stretched, when it needs oil, when it's ready, through feel alone. His son, 31, now works in the workshop too. But the son is faster, impatient sometimes, wants to see results. Friedrich has to slow him down, gently but firmly, has to show him that good leather can't be rushed, that quality costs time, and quality is everything. The finished leather is a sort of wonder, a wonder that Friedrich sees and feels and knows, and yet, every so often, its beauty still surprises him. It's thick enough to last a lifetime, thick enough to protect shoes, hold bags strong, yet flexible enough to mold itself to your hand, to bend, to breathe, almost to live. The color is dark brown, nearly dark red, with variations, with nuances that tell the story of the tanning, the years, the time, the process. When you smell it, you smell at once the forests of Upper Palatinate. You smell the years of waiting. You smell the patience that lies behind it. When you feel it, you feel yourself in another time, perhaps a better time, a time when things still mattered, still had meaning. Friedrich works for shoemakers, for leather craftsfolk, for people who still believe in fine, handcrafted leather, in real quality, in real beauty, not in mass production. He has customers all across Germany, even in Austria and Switzerland, in small villages high in the Tyrol. They write to him on thick paper, handwritten letters, writing with real fountain pens, writing that their shoe still holds up after 15, 20 years, that the leather feels better with the years, grows darker, grows more supple, more beautiful, polished like a precious stone. The train is now moving into different countryside, slowly leaving the forests, the mountains. We're drawing close to Sulzbach, the journey nearly over. Friedrich gazes out long at the greening fields, at the meadows, and thinks of the stream beside his workshop. The stream that's been there ever since his grandfather bought the workshop in 1902. The water will soon be fuller with spring, with snowmelt from the mountains, with the rain that will come. Sometimes the water overflows, makes the work difficult, has to be channeled carefully. But that water gives him the power to turn the mill, to grind the bark, makes everything possible. That water is like the blood of the workshop. Without it, there would be no tannery, no transformation. He thinks too of his son, 31, who works alone today, who tends the barrels every day without him, who turns the leather with the same movements Friedrich taught him 20 years ago, patiently. And he thinks of the young apprentice, 16, blonde, from the village, who's just started, who doesn't yet understand why you must wait, why you have to open the workshop windows in the morning to let in fresh air, even when it's still cold outside. She'll understand, Friedrich knows it, someday, when her hands begin to feel the differences, when they sense how the leather changes beneath her fingers. And if one day you hold a truly good piece of leather, one that grows warm in your hand, that's deeply dark brown, that smells like old forests and patience and time, then think of Friedrich and his old mill. Think of the oak trees in the forests. Think of the cold water of the stream. Think of the months the leather spends in the dark barrel as it changes. Thank the leather for how long it will last, for the fact that it will outlive you. I closed my eyes. Just for a moment, I thought. Just for a moment. But then images came behind my eyelids. No clear pictures, only colors, soft colors. Blue and gray and a bit of gold from the lamp in the compartment. And those colors mixed into something that was no longer seeing and not yet dream. The train went on, ta-dum, ta-dum, and each ta-dum was a little bit further away, as if the train weren't quite in the same space as me anymore, as if I were already halfway somewhere else, halfway to the land where tiredness lives, where everything becomes simple. Picture yourself traveling through the Sauerland in spring, when the valleys are still damp from snow, when the air smells of wet leaves and fresh green, of mountains. And in this carriage sits a woman with eyes that have seen decades, whose craft is older than the printing press, older than anything we know today, older than industry. Her name is Petra, and she makes parchment from goat skin, still the way it was done in the Middle Ages. Parchment. It's the material of kings, of saints, of history's most important documents. It lasts longer than paper. It takes ink better. It grows more beautiful with the years. Light passes through it differently as it ages. It's the material the monks wrote on in the Middle Ages. Bibles, prayers, legal decrees. And Petra makes it still the way they did, by hand, with tools passed down generation to generation, some of them 100 years old. She's traveling now from Meschede to Winterberg, an hour's journey through beautiful countryside. In her rucksack, she has samples, fine, creamy white sheets, so delicate you can almost see through them, so thin they are. These sheets will become calligraphic art, masterpieces by artists who work with them. They'll become wedding invitations, the first pages in notebooks of people who value what's precious, who know that real beauty costs. And some of her parchments go into museums, into restoration workshops, where old books, 100-year-old books, are remade, reborn. The work with parchment begins with skin, with living substance that must be transformed. Petra works only with goat skin, not sheepskin, which is too soft. Not calf skin, which doesn't get dense enough. Goat skin is finer, denser, more durable than all the others, can do what parchment needs to do. The skin comes from a butcher in the region, from goats that actually lived on mountains, in meadows. Not from somewhere nameless, not from big factories, not manufactured. Petra knows the butcher, knows the goats, sometimes. She respects that nothing is wasted, that the skin gets a second chance, a second life. In her workshop in Meschede, An old house with tall windows facing west, where the sun shines in the afternoon, begins the skin's journey. The long, important journey to something marvelous, to something that will last for decades. The first bath is in water with lime. Special lime, not just any lime. That turns the skin yellowish, soft, tender, changes it slowly. That's necessary, this first step. You can't skip it, can't shortcut it. The skin is then stretched on a large wooden frame, old wood, which has held hundreds of other skins, polished smooth by all that work. That's the next phase, and it's critical. The decisive phase, where everything can go wrong. Petra has to stretch the skin evenly, not too tight, which would tear it in the middle of the work, not too loose, which would leave wrinkles, unevenness. Her hands feel the right tension, like a violin string perfectly tuned, like music that sounds right, that has the soul of music. The skin is thinned. Petra scrapes it with a knife, sharp-edged like a scalpel that doctors might use. She scrapes the skin from both sides, removes all impurities, all excess, every unevenness. The knife must be sharp, but not too sharp, or the skin tears, springs, breaks. It's a balance, a dance between strength and gentleness that needs experience, decades-long experience. Petra has honed these knives herself for more than 50 years, knows exactly how sharp they need to be, keeps them alive, in use. Water is the next step, and patience is tested. The stretched, scraped skin is submerged in a bath of water, of pure water from the mountains. And as the skin dries, as the water slowly evaporates, the window wide open, spring loud outside with birds, it grows firmer, denser, becomes something else. The workshop window is large, open. The air moves through it, the fresh valley air of the Sauerland. It's crucial, essential, that the skin dries evenly, that the air reaches all sides, no spot stays damp, no edge grows thicker than the other. With each day, the skin becomes a little more parchment, shifts its nature, its identity. The color changes slowly, becomes creamy white, ivory instead of yellowish, like moonlight. The structure changes, grows firmer, denser, takes its new shape. After about 2 to 3 weeks, it's ready, or Petra believes it is. She removes it from the frame with careful, experienced fingers. And there it lies, this marvelously thin, resilient white stuff, this wonder of nature that can last 1,000 years, that outlasts books, that outlasts people. The parchment is then finished, polished, perfected, becomes what it's meant to be. Petra polishes it with stone and clay, special clay from the mountains, to make the surface smooth, almost velvety, silky. She treats it with pumice stone, sharp pumice stone, to improve the fineness further, to make the parchment as thin as possible without it tearing. Sometimes she gets parchment so thin you can almost see through it. Light shines through, makes it glow. Each piece is a bit different, has its own marks, its own character, its own beauty, its texture. There's no mass production. No two parchments are identical. All are individual pieces. Pure handcraft. Pure individuality. Pure art. Petra's students come from all over Europe, from France, from Italy, from Scandinavia, to learn from her. Calligraphers, book restorers, artists, people who understand that real beauty costs time. They want to know how to make parchment, want to experience the process with their own hands, from beginning to end. When they take a knife for the first time and scrape the skin, when the covering falls away, they always see the same expression of surprise and awe in Petra's eyes. They understand then, at once, how difficult it is, how much skill it needs, how much love. In the workshop, there are old tools that Petra's grandmother used, and whose grandmother before her. A scraper of horn, smooth as silk from decades of use, polished by countless movements. An old balance scale of brass on which every piece of parchment is weighed to make sure the thickness is even, that no two pieces are different. A thick notebook with recipes, written by hand, with pencil, with the names of all the different baths and treatments noted by Petra herself, her mother's notes in it, her grandmother's notes. Petra is 72 now, but her eyes are still sharp, still bright. Her hands shake sometimes, especially in the morning when it's cold. But when she takes a knife, when she stretches a skin, when the work begins, they're steady, sure, precise, like instruments. She says her hands carry the memory, that they know what to do, in what order, how tight, even when her head grows tired sometimes, even when she forgets what day it is. The route to Winterberg winds through valleys growing greener with each kilometer, with every moment. Petra looks out long and sees the waterfalls fed by snow from the higher mountains. The water plunges down, white and loud. That water, that fresh, cold water, that matters too for her work. That's part of it. It's soft, pure, untainted, perfect for the baths, the processes. The water from these mountains is the best water in Germany, Petra thinks. Not too hard, not too soft, exactly right. She's already thinking of the next work, of the parchment waiting. A large commission from a museum in Berlin. Old documents need parchment for restoration. And if one day you hold a piece of parchment, if you feel its fineness, if you sense its warmth, if you notice how the black ink sits on it, perfect, without bleeding, how beautiful it looks, then think of Petra. Think of the goat skin, of the patience, of the knives, of the water from the mountains. Think that this parchment might last 500 years, longer than you, longer than your children. A fragment of immortality. And somewhere in this dark landscape, I thought still, other people are sleeping now in their beds, in their houses, and the moon looks down on them, and the moon looks down on us, and everything is in its place. The fields are in their place, the forests are in their place, the rivers are in their place, and I'm in my place, here in this carriage, here in this warm cradle of wood and cloth and metal that carries me where I need to go, without my being awake, without my having to do anything but trust and rest. The train leaves Zwickau, and the landscape slowly opens up. Fields just turning green again, bright green. Forests putting on new growth, waking. And in this carriage sits a man in his middle years, 55, with hands that are rough and practical, craftsman's hands, hands that make hats. His name is Manfred, and he's one of the last hat makers in Gera, in Germany, still working to old patterns 100 years old, who still understands. The man sitting at the window wears no hat himself. His hair is grey, short, practical. His hands are large, craftsman's hands, marked by decades of work. When you see him, first glance, you know at once he works, that he does something with his hands. His eyes are a light blue, still sharp, still alert. Hats are no longer fashion. That's the sad thing, and at the same time, the beautiful thing about his work. Because fashion has gone away, quality remains. Nobody buys hats because it's trendy, because the celebrities are wearing them. The people who still buy a hat don't buy it on impulse, but because they understand, because they know a good hat is beautiful, that it protects, that it will last for years, decades even. Manfred makes felt hats and straw hats, following patterns that are at least 100 years old, some older still. The patterns are drawn on large papers, some already yellowed, some still in the clear handwriting of his great-grandfather, Georg Bayer, who wrote the name in 1903. He reads these patterns the way other people read books, not with his eyes alone, but with his hands. Each line tells him something. Each mark, each note on the margin is an instruction, a secret from back then. The felt hat begins with rabbit down, with rabbit fur, with beaver hair, the finest wool. Manfred buys these from dealers, from people who still work with nature, who have respect for the animals, for the material. The hair is mixed, carefully treated with water and light steam, rolled in great fulling machines. It compacts, becomes felt, becomes hard, and at the same time elastic, becomes a new material. The heat has to be exactly right, not too hot, not too cold. The moisture exactly right. A balance Manfred feels. In his workshop in Gera stand old machines with which Manfred fulls the felts, compacts them, shapes them, transforms them. Machines more than 100 years old, dark, enormous, loud. But the tools, the most important tools, are his hands. With his hands he can feel when the felt has the right consistency, when the fibers have properly bonded. With his eyes, he can see when the shape is right, when it matches the pattern exactly. With his mind, with his experience, he can decide whether a hat is good enough, whether it deserves the world. The straw hat is different, but just as complicated, just as demanding, perhaps even more so. The straw must be very fine, almost like fine paper, almost transparent when held to the light, golden. Manfred weaves it by hand, every single stalk in the right place, in the right spiral, with a rhythm that's hypnotic. It's slow, methodical, meditative, truly meditative, like prayer. A straw hat can take 4-5 weeks when Manfred really takes his time, when he's truly making a real masterpiece. Some straw hats take even longer, up to 2 months, when the structure is especially complicated, when the design is old and difficult. The colors come from plants, not chemicals. Manfred never dyes his hats with synthetic dyes. Never. He uses indigo, woad, madder root, wormwood, chamomile. The colors are muted, soft, natural, truly beautiful. They change over the years, grow more beautiful still, more subtle, when the hats are worn, when they're exposed to sun glare and rain. Manfred's workshop smells of felt, of wet straw, of plant dyes, of wormwood, of indigo, of earth. It's a good smell, a smell that tells of work, of history, of craft. When he opens the windows wide in the morning, when fresh air streams in like a visitor, when the sun shines on the workbenches and makes everything golden, you see the dust dancing, felt dust, straw dust, fine as powder, dancing in the light rays. Manfred has had students, many over the years. Some have stayed, have learned how to really make hats, real artwork hats. Some have left, found other work where it goes faster, where the pay is better. But the few who stayed, the 4 who work now they understand what it means to make a hat, truly, with care, with love, with respect for the material, for the patterns. The customers come from Leipzig, from Dresden, from Berlin, from other cities, yes, even from Munich. Or they write long letters, order a hat according to their special wishes from ideas in old photographs. Sometimes someone comes into the workshop and says that the hat his father got from Manfred 30 years ago is still perfect. He still wears it in good weather. Those are the moments that really make Manfred happy. When he knows his work counts, that it endures. A hat is a work of art, he sometimes tells his students when they grow tired, when the work is hard. It's far more than just something you put on your head to protect yourself from the sun. It's a connection between you and nature, between your hand and the hands of all the people who wore this hat before. Between you and your grandfather, perhaps. It's a piece of history, a piece of time, a piece of life. It's a quiet instruction from the master to the one who wears it. A question it asks. Will you respect me? Will you wear me for a long time? Will you treasure me? It's also a promise from the master that this is a good thing, that I will not die if you treat me well. Manfred is now 55. He's been doing this work entirely alone since he was 43, since his father died. Before that, he worked together with his father, learning every day. The train is now slowly approaching Gera, slowing down, braking, decreasing its speed. The landscape becomes more urban, denser, grayer. But Manfred knows every kilometer like the back of his own hand, like his own eyes. He knows where the workshop is, in the old factory building from before, from when Gera was still a great hat city, when hundreds of people made hats. He knows what work waits for him, waits patiently. A dark blue felt hat that a wealthy customer from Vienna has ordered waits for the final shape to be given, for the brim to be rolled exactly right, for the ribbon trim to be sewn on. A straw hat, almost finished, creamy white, waits for the final check, the final inspection, before it leaves the workshop and goes to its new owner. He thinks of the sun that will shine tomorrow, the spring sun, of the light that falls through the old windows of the workshop and makes everything golden, makes it sacred. And he thinks of the hands, the faithful, patient work that isn't endlessly recognized, isn't celebrated, but is meaningful, important. And he thinks of the hats he'll still make before he grows too old, before his hands can no longer, before he truly has to hand everything over to his students and can only watch. And if one day you find a truly good hat, one that fits perfectly, that's truly beautiful, that tells a story without words, then think of Manfred. Think of the fulling of the felt, of the individual straws that were woven, of the plant dyes, the indigo, the wormwood. Think that this hat is meant for you, that it will protect you and make you more beautiful, will frame your face for a very long time. This hat will perhaps outlive you, will become a memory, a work of art, proof that someone cared, that someone invested care. My eyes grew heavy, so heavy, as if someone had gently laid a warm hand on my lids and said, "That's enough now. That's enough for today." And I heard the train, ta-dum, ta-dum. And I heard the quiet breathing of another passenger who'd already fallen asleep. And I heard the distant rush of wind at the window panes. And all those sounds were like a soft blanket laid over me, layer after layer, warmth after warmth, until I felt nothing more except the quiet glide of the train through the night.